Well, confirmation this morning that your diet plays a major part in your risk of getting cancer. In fact, research shows that eating right and exercising can reduce your chances of getting cancer by 30 or 40%. To tell us what you should be eating and shouldn't be eating, we're joined by Dr. Les Brown. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Morning, Andrew.
How much does your diet play in the chance of getting cancer?
Well, you just quoted the figure up to 40%, and this is a figure that I don't believe is widely known. It really is a significant factor in whether or not we're likely to get cancer, what we eat and what we drink.
Is it more important, say, than smoking?
Well, arguably, yes. There are a number of studies that are saying it's at least of equal importance in terms of not getting cancer. It depends, obviously, on the individual cancer.
Okay. I mean, and the figures also, I think it's there's 1 in 3 men and 1 in 4 women at some time in their life will develop cancer. So these are pretty alarming stats, aren't they?
Frightening.
Okay, so what should we do about it? What can we eat and what can't we eat?
Well, there are a number of recommendations being made by a major study that was put out last year, and the main recommendations in that study were eat more plant-based foods. That's fruits, vegetables, legumes, cereals, grains. And if these form a large part of our diet, then by and large we're going to be doing a lot of the right things. Okay,
the study actually said something like you've got to, I think, 5 servings per day?
5
fruit and
servings
veg?
of fruit and veg, certainly, yes.
And I think 5 portions a day of cereals and pulses and tubes and roots. And
at least this would be a great basis for a good cancer prevention diet.
But is that realistic today? I mean, as we just heard in the last interview, it's nearly 2,000. They're busy and they're flat out. Do we have enough time to look after ourselves in a diet sense?
Actually, if you eat healthily with fruit and vegetables, it's probably easier than eating a lot of the other foods. It doesn't take a lot to increase your number of fruit portions in a day.
Okay, so what should we try and avoid?
Certainly, if people eat too much meat, there's a good evidence that that's going to increase the risk of cancer. We're not saying don't have meat, obviously, but the amount that people have, I think, is important. Certainly, avoiding too much of the way of the foods that are high in fat, avoiding too much of the foods that are high in salt.
Okay, so we should continue with fish and chicken and meats like that?
Certainly, fish and chicken are much better options very often.
Is chicken probably the best meat that we can have for ourselves?
I think fish may well come ahead of chicken if we were to do a sort of quantitative analysis there, but realistically we're looking at people eating what they enjoy eating, but in the right proportions.
There's another recommendation which I must admit troubles me a little bit. It says that from the age of adulthood we should only put on 5 kilos or 11 pounds. And I'm 30 and I've thought about almost all of my friends and I can't think of one who's managed to keep it, which might be an indication of my friends, but they can't keep their weight down by 5 pounds since, say, they turned 18 or became adults.
Well, it's difficult, and very often it's not just a question of what they're eating, it's a question of how active they are. One of the problems as we get older is we tend to drop our activity levels, and this plays a major part in the gradual increase in weight which so many of us experience.
Okay, well, we've got the Cancer Councillors have endorsed the product that you're involved in this morning. You're launching, and it's a CD-ROM about how we should eat. So just quickly tell us about that, please.
The program is designed really to give advice to the individual. It's tailored to the individual's needs and requirements. People go into the program, they develop their profile, telling the computer program whether they have a blood pressure problem, cholesterol problem, pregnant or breastfeeding. And they then enter the foods that they eat in a day. It takes a few minutes just to tap in the various foods they have, and at the end of the day they're asked how active they've been in the day. And
I'll just point out what they've done and how good their health is. Let me give a phone number for that, because it sounds like a pretty good initiative. It's called Eat, Drink and Be Healthy. The number is 1300 55 0028. 1300 55 0028. And Dr. Brown, just to recap, let's go through some of those points that you made about things that we shouldn't eat. Plant-based food is probably the most important, would you say?
Certainly, fruits, vegetables, grain products, and minimally processed grain products, ideally.
Okay, watch your weight is the next one, which speaks for itself. Eat cereals, which are important as well.
Yes.
And alcohol is not recommended. We didn't talk about alcohol. This is terrible news for the Australian public, I think.
Well, the program probably takes a slightly broader view than this is a recommendation come from the World Cancer Research Fund. Our program tends to adopt the policy that the National NHMRC put out, and this is 2 to 3 drinks a day for women at the most and 3 to 4 drinks a day for men, but with the proviso that at least 2 alcohol-free days.
Oh, that's very good advice. I think everyone will be happy with that. And also limit red meat. All right, well, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Brown, this morning.
You're welcome.
And good luck with that CD-ROM. Still to come on 11 a.m. We'll talk penile problems. And next, Georgie Parker and Andy McKay talking about...
Now, these statistics are extraordinary. 1 in 3 men 1 in 4 women will develop cancer in their lifetime, but research shows that cancer can be prevented sometimes by simple means. For example, 5 servings of vegetables and fruit a day could reduce the risk by 20%. Well, now, to help, a personal computer can become your dietitian, helping you maintain a nutritional balance and lower the risk of cancer. To tell us more, please welcome Dr. Les Brown. Hi, Dr. Brown, welcome. Thank you. Actually, let's first of all look at those awful statistics and the most common cancers that Australians and the world are suffering today.
Worldwide, lung is definitely ahead. Fortunately, in Australia, lung cancer is coming down, particularly in males, not so in females. Colon cancer and rectum cancer are serious problems, and they are up there. The ones that probably get most attention in the press would be the breast and prostate. The interesting thing about the top 3 on the list there is that all of those are to a greater or lesser extent diet-related.
Explain that and expand. I mean, we're far more familiar than what we were 10 and 12 years, 15 years ago about our diet. But how important is that nutritional balance?
Well, the statistics are coming out that are telling us that if we eat right and ally that with regular activity, we can reduce our risk by as much as 30 or 40%. That's a massive reduction in cancer risk just by eating the right foods.
So if we're talking, I mentioned fruit and vegetables in the introduction. What sort of improvement would we see in our diet if we pursued that?
Well, we'll be changing the balance of the diet. Our whole program, Eat, Drink and Be Healthy, is about balancing the diet. And if you increase the amount of certain foods, you're going to decrease the amount of others that you eat. And that's really the concept that we work on.
Well, explain this concept. How do we know then what is right for us? How does the program work?
Well, it's not easy to know, but we've designed a program here that will allow people to put in their own profile so that the information that's given to them is peculiar to them. And perhaps I can just show you on the screen and you can actually see what we go. What we do here is we build up a profile, if we can see this on the screen, of the individual. So we sort out how old you are, what weight you are, whether you have a cholesterol or blood pressure problem, whether you're pregnant or whether you may be breastfeeding. And all the advice is given specifically to the individual relating to those particular parameters.
And then what do you do?
Well, people go in and they spend a few minutes each day tapping in what they eat in their if we go here, there's a question here, we ask them what they eat for breakfast, for instance. And if they select a cereal, we ask them which cereal they have. And we then ask them what they add to the cereal. We go through the whole day asking them basically what they eat, how much of it, and at the end we've got a good idea of all the foods they've eaten.
And what should or would the result be when you finish the questionnaire, basically?
Well, let's have a look here. I'll just jump through a couple here.
How long would it take to do the program?
First time people do the program, probably about 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. After that, it'll probably take only sort of 5 or 10 minutes because you can actually create standards. If you have a standard cup of tea containing coffee and tea, that becomes your standard coffee. And
then, as I see here, so after all this information that goes in, you get a rating.
You get a rating. The ratings are a very important part of the diet. We're actually telling people how they rate in terms of the foods they include. We tell them how they rate in terms of the nutrients they're getting from those foods. And a lot of the advice is being given about changing the balance of the foods that you eat.
So what is advisable then in terms of information we need to know?
Well, you mentioned earlier the fruit and vegetables is important, and quite obviously that's a very important factor there. We also look at I just put up here now a different rating here where there is a higher rating there, and this is really what we're hoping people will move towards, a much better rating in terms of...
So do you have to do this every day?
We think that people will probably use it for the first couple of weeks on a daily basis, and thereafter probably use it possibly sort of 2 or 3 times a week, really just to see whether they're improving. So
you then go through the questionnaire, fill in your intake, and then it tells you whether you're doing better or worse.
Indeed it does, and one of the very important parts of the program is what we call What If. I'll just go forward here. The What If is a program that will allow people to look at their diet, what they've eaten in the day, and ask the computer, what if I were to add some more fruit or some more vegetables to my diet? What if I was to avoid putting butter on my bread, or if I was to have less to drink on the day? And that then will give them a rating both before and after. They can actually see the rating, which is on the left-hand side is the one before here, and on the right is after. And the idea is to move towards the better rating, the green rating, which shows them that they're doing things more or less right.
Are you ever too old to start a new diet?
No, nor too young. No, I think really people can diet at any age. I think the ideal really within diet is for people to adopt habits early, if possible, and follow them through their lifetime, but certainly never too old, no.
Terrific. Where can people access this?
It's available on a CD-ROM. It's being sponsored by the Cancer Council, so all of the Cancer Council outlets in New South Wales have actually got the program that'll they'll supply it to them. But there's also a 1300 number,
And
which
a
they can
website
call.
as well.
And we're also on the website, so we can actually, people can go on there, download the program from the website.
So you just keep judging yourself, and the motivation is up to the individual.
Well, the motivation comes within the program and the individual follows through. And the other part of the program is that we do sponsor an ongoing relationship with the individual, because the website is constantly going to be updated and people can download the latest version, so they are getting the message the whole time.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much for that info today. We do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Dr. Les Brown.